Grant, I wanted to start off by asking you to give us a little bit of a history of how you got into the industry.
Yeah, actually, I got into the industry by basically seeing there was a niche for so many more people wanted to get houses and stuff like that were self-employed, and that mortgages, it's sort of gone full circle. There's so many lenders out there, and it's kind of like educating clients that want to buy homes and all their options.
Right.
So I felt that it was a great position for me to be into, was to be that sort of educator and showing people there were so many different opportunities than there used to be to get into the housing market.
So what's your history behind this yourself? Have you always been involved in this from the beginning? Have you always had an interest in it?
Yeah, well, since I was a kid, I always sort of renovated homes, dating back to with my parents and such, and always had an interest. And I also worked in construction and dealt with so many people in the industry, and saw that it was such. I saw when people actually bought places, they were so happy, and it was such an emotional time in their life, and a change that was going forward into their next step sort of thing. So I thought it'd be great to be able to be very instrumental in helping them get to the next step in their life. So
That leads me to my next question. It's funny because a lot of people liken buying a house to the most stressful circumstance, like a death in the family, divorce,
Yeah.
all these different things. Well, what can you do to smooth things out for them?
Well, it's like a step-by-step process. The main thing is trying to find out where the clients are as far as their education, their knowledge of the housing market and everything, and the steps, and then sort of taking the time to sort of help them on every step of the way, whether it's finding them the right lawyer, the right real estate agent, even to the right accountant to clean up their taxes, whatever there might be, because a lot of people, until they're sort of educated or pointed in the right direction, it's sort of hard for them to sort of get a grip on what they should do. So with doing that, I find that so many of the clients have sort of settled down, and they realize that it's not really that big of a deal to get into purchasing a home.
Right. Now, you're also a writer as well, and I just finished reading one of your articles, which is a pretty lofty title, Debt-Free in 10 Days. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, yeah, it's the whole idea is in Vancouver right now, so many people that have purchased properties, say in the last 2 or 3 years, have the ability to pull out equity out of their home to pay off debt or whatever it is, because
Right.
the properties have gone up so much in value that there's so many banks that will actually help them sort of pay off their debt and realize that there's so much more value in their property, so they can give them basically cash to pay out their debt and a bit higher mortgage. But when you're paying 18 to 30% interest in credit card debt, it's really hard to pay that down. But if you're paying like sort of 5% or 5.5% on a mortgage, it's way easier to sort of clean up your debt and have just one simple payment per month, right?
So, if it is that easy, how come people don't seem to be doing it? I mean, is it just a fear? It seems like a no-brainer.
Well, it's sort of, a lot of people don't realize they have that sort of power in their own residence, that they can do those sort of things, right? And it's from education that gets back to that education sort of thing, where if you don't realize you can do something, you won't, right? But once you realize that there's the opportunity to do such a thing, and like I said, as easily as 10 days, right? Then why not sort of take that on and clean up your debt, and that way you can sort of move on to the next level, right?
So for those that may be seeing this and thinking about doing it, take us through the process, just to maybe alleviate some stress that may be out there.
Yeah, well, the first thing is that, when say somebody calls me, is to sort of assess typically how much their property is worth, because when they bought, say, 2 or 3 years ago, it's will have jumped tremendously, right? So we try to look and see if there's another unit, if it's a condo or a house similar on their street or in their building that is sold recently, and sort of we can sort of see the actual value typically it would be as far as right now. And then once we do that, we basically find out your credit and your existing mortgage, how much you owe on your existing mortgage, and then we can sort of figure out what the best alternatives are as far as refinancing.
So what type of a time period are we looking at here for this to be completed?
Well, simply, usually for funding, actually having the money into your bank account, because typically what happens is the lenders will, whatever money is going to be credited you will go right into your bank account, and that's typically within 10 days of you first sending, initiation of giving me a couple of documents and doing a quick application. And yeah, 10 days you can have the funds into your bank account.
So hence the title, Debt-Free in 10 Days.
Yes. Yeah.
Now, who do you actually write these articles for, other than the fact that you do an article for the Real Estate Channel, which is a company we work for, of course? Who else?
Actually, Vancouver Review magazine. Yeah, they're very sort of down in Yaletown, Cole Harbour, Kitsilano. It's been out for probably about 3 or 4 years, and I've been in there for a while, and it's been great response from many people just saying that it's the questions that they have that they seem to think are silly questions,
Right.
but they're totally valid questions, right? And it's just like any industry. If I was to ask a plumber or something, it might be for him it's a sort of a bit of an easy question, but for me something difficult that like I can't understand and I shouldn't understand because it's not my industry. That's why I'm asking the question, right?
So there are no dumb questions when it comes to clients.
Exactly. Yeah.
Now, we were talking before about the fact that you've got a history in acting.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I guess I wasn't that good. Well, no, it was a great industry. I love that industry, and I have a lot of friends that are in that industry still that are doing really well. In that industry, you find a lot of people that are self-employed and they do various jobs. So it was when I was looking at getting into mortgages, the acting industry was very sort of instrumental, and I could see the typical people. It's so hard to go to their bank and get a regular type of mortgage because they got different income
sporadically.
streams. Yeah, all over the place. So, and the bank sort of looks down, the typical banks when you walk in look down on that, right? And so once you've been turned down in that situation, it's very hard for that sort of person to think that they can purchase.
Right.
But actually coming to a mortgage broker, there's so many different lenders we deal with that we can just state your income or whatever. So having different income streams is never a problem. We can always find at least a couple of lenders that will entertain doing a mortgage.
Now, we're heading into the holiday season here, so what's up for Grant Powell over the next little while?
Well, I'm going to relax over the season a little bit, but I guess coming up in the new year, like every year, there's going to be lots of people looking at getting pre-approved for a mortgage because, the spring season's so busy. So I guess, that's my job to me is to get clients prepared best they can, especially first-time home buyers for that season, is to get them pre-approved, find out how much they can afford comfortably, and so that there's no surprises. And then when they go out shopping for a place, because we know it's competitive to find a place, they know exactly what they can afford, and they can sort of remove subjects within a few days, right?
Now, in closing, Grant, how can people that are watching this and maybe have some questions get a hold of you for more info?
I find a lot of people tend to email me just for simple questions. That way they can sort of write down, take their time to ask a question, and then they'll get it sort of back. A lot of times when I email them back, they can sort of read it a couple times or so on and so forth. So at grant@grantpowell.ca, you can simply email me, or if you want to call me at 604-608-6905, or of course go to my website, grantpowell.ca, where they can get more information and go from there.
See you lounging on a couch looking really comfortable there, I saw.
Yeah.
That. Grant, thanks very much for joining us. Grant Powell, mortgage expert for Dominion Lending Center and author on FYI.